Hey kings and queens, welcome to the channel. Please hit that like button on your way in. Now this story time right here, it starts off slow, but then it gets real crazy. Just stay tuned.
To my son, how my son was legally kidnapped by his father for 8 years, when I met him for the first time, and how all this even came about. So I got all the court paperwork here as well. I'm gonna call him Tyrone. So I met Tyrone when I was 16 years old, and I got pregnant at 17 years old. He was 3 years older than me, so I was 16, he was 19. I ended up getting pregnant, of course, and I gave birth to our son 2 months, well, a month and some change before I actually turned 18. I was on probation, so I didn't get off probation until the day I turned 18, maybe like a day or two after I turned 18. Tyrone ended up having to go back to the Bay Area where he's from. I'm from San Diego. So he ended up having to go back to the Bay Area, leaving me and our newborn son here because he had got into some legal trouble. So he went back to the Bay Area, and the plan was for me to follow once I turned 18. So once I turned 18, my stepdad took me to the courthouse to see if they were going to let me on probation. I was going to go regardless because I was so far manipulated. I was gone, y'all. I was gone. I didn't know any better. My stepdad literally looked at me as soon as the courts let me off probation. He looked at me and he said, as soon as you get out there, he's going to start hitting you. I still hopped my silly butt on that Greyhound with my newborn baby. So when we got there, he started hitting me that same night. Didn't waste any time. I want to tell you guys more detail without disrespecting this woman, because she is the only one in his family that did not do anything to me, and I love her to death. It's his mama. When I first got there with my newborn baby, there were literally roaches falling from the ceiling. He did not make me aware of any of that, because he knew I wouldn't have came. But anyways, things were already so far gone between me and my mom, it was no way for me to even turn back around and go back. So I'm here. So obviously I was like, I had never seen a roach in person before. So I was like, I'm getting itchy all over again. Okay. Anyways, he felt like that was extremely disrespectful of me to be scared of roaches, so he started beating me up. I know it sounds funny, but yeah, it definitely was not funny at the time when I was going through it. So his grandmother on his mom's side lived down the hill, and then his grandmother on his dad's side lived up the hill. Seriously, I had never seen it before. But yeah, they all grew up on that street, so that's how that happened. So we went up to his grandmother on his dad's side, up the hill, and she said that we cannot stay there together, that me and the baby can stay there, but Tyrone would have to stay down the hill because we were not married, and she did not believe in that. So he did not agree with that. He did not want me alone at his grandmother's house because I'm such a cheater and da-da-da-da-da-da. We end up sleeping in a car and then going to the welfare office in the morning to apply for those hotel vouchers. We end up doing that. The 14 days run out for the hotel voucher. So we end up back at the mama's house, and we end up living in a tent. I have so many pictures on my social media still of the tent in the background, because we were living in a tent inside of the home to avoid the bugs from getting in. It was that bad. Yes.
My main question would be, what took place between her and her mom for her to even get here? She brushed over that.
So then eventually we end up getting our own place. He's still he's cheating on me. He's putting his hands on me. I'm showing the proof to his auntie. We're going to call her Teresa. They're all T's, so I got to keep it all T's. We're going to call her Teresa. So Auntie Teresa. I'm showing her all the proof. She sits him down and she talks to him, and she tells him, you brought this girl all the way out here for you to be treating her like this and cheating on her. If you're not going to treat her right, send her home. I remember that specific conversation that she had with him. He's like, I'm going to be treating her right, whatever. I walked into the house one day. He left his laptop up, and I saw more of him cheating on me, and I get beat up again. Mind you, I'm pregnant at this time. So one of our mutual friends come down, which is my old best friend's cousin, blood cousin. So he ends up coming down and witnessing what's happening to me. Mind you, his cousin, which is my best friend at the time, she was supposed to be coming down and spending time with me. So he goes back. He ends up leaving early. He was supposed to stay there because he just couldn't bear to see what was being done to me in that home. So he goes back and tells her, you don't want to go out there. You don't want to see her like that. She's blowing on my phone trying to figure out what he meant by that. I'm not telling him. Like, I'm not telling her anything because I was like overly embarrassed. I was too embarrassed. I was not the type of person that goes and like vents to people if I know I'm not leaving, you know? He ends up kneeing me in my stomach, which then sends me to the hospital to give birth to our son early. That is why my children are born in the same year, because he kneed me in my stomach. Him kneeing me in my stomach actually caused an infection. So after I had the baby, that infection created like a sticky paste inside of me. And when my organs were trying to go back into their regular spots, they were pulling on each other because that infection had stuck them together. So I was in excruciating pain. I'm begging him to help me with the baby because I can barely move. He's not trying to help me. He's still verbally abusing me and not trying to help me at all. I end up having to call the ambulance so the ambulance can come and get me because I could not move. When they did the ultrasound, they couldn't see an issue because my organs were pulled back into place, but they were still stuck together, so they couldn't see it. They had to go in my belly button with a camera, and that's how they saw it. And then they fixed it, separated all my organs back to their regular place, and then I was discharged from the hospital like 2 to 3 days later, where he started beating me up again. So there was a church across the street. So I ended up begging him to take us to the church because I just felt like this is my way to get out. So when they called us to come to the altar, I was hoping that he did not come, and he didn't. So when I got to the altar, I whispered in their ear exactly what was going on. So we came up with a plan for me to get me and the boys out of there safely. So one of the members of the church had a nephew who was a police officer, because in California, if any domestic violence is going on, they instantly call CPS, and they're so used to like people going back to their abusers that they're starting to just take y'all kids. So she did not want that to happen to me. So we came up with an entire plan. He had school the next day, so the plan was for me to, once he got to school, pack our bags, because I couldn't pack our bags that night while he was there or he would have suspected something. And honestly, I felt like he was going to kill me. So once he left to school that morning, the plan was for me to pack my bags and leave safely. Well, that morning, he asked to take our oldest son to school with him. So that threw the whole plan out of whack. So I'm telling him like, no, I was planning on taking them to the park today. He's like, well, we can take him to the park when I get back home from school. I'm like, yeah, no, but like, I really wanted to take him to the park. And now he's hitting me. Mind you, our 2-week-old son is strapped to me. So the member of the church is outside, parked around the corner, because we already had the time frame planned out. So she's parked around the corner, and her police officer nephew is there as well. Well, when I don't come out, and neither does he at the time, the phone rings. So that was the plan for her to call. And if I don't answer the phone, they're supposed to barge in. So that's what ended up happening. So the phone rang. I tried to run to go and grab the phone, and he snatches it and unplugs it from the wall. And then that's when the police officer comes to the door. Like for part 2, y'all.
All right, y'all. So that's going to be it for part 1. Y'all comment down below. Let me know if y'all would like part 2. Please hit that like button. And I will also save my commentary for part 2 as well if y'all are interested in this story. Thank y'all so much for tuning in.